Well, hello everyone, welcome to 2023 and welcome back to Dprieto TV. We are already, at 2023. Today's video, the final episode of Prietology Season 4, the grand finale of our geology and earth science. As you can see, we're still in the same place, have a brand new editing software as you can see. We have more effects, we have better video quality, so yeah, a lot of exciting things planned this year for 2023. And I'm glad you could join us for this first video of 2023. We got some big announcements at the end, so yeah, let's start this grand finale of Prietology Season 4. And today we're talking about ecosystems, so biomes, the tundra, the taiga, the food web, tropical rainforest, oceans, conservation we'll also talk about at the end. So yeah. Get excited. So yeah, let's waste no more time. Let's go over the key terms. Alright, there we have 10 terms today. A good full episode for today for Prietology, the grand finale of Season 4. We're talking about biomes and the enchanting ecosystems today. So we got food web, biome, tundra, taiga, temperate forest, grassland, desert, tropical rainforest, ocean biomes, and conservation. Well, let's waste no more time and let's get started with our first term. Alright, here's our first term of our season finale, food web. Pretty simple term. Let's start off our enchanting ecosystems with this. It tracks which organisms that's a tongue twister. It tracks which organisms eat which organisms. So essentially it's like who eats who in the system, and the higher you go, the more of a predator they are. There's one for every ecosystem on the planet. So there's a desert one, there's one for the Arctic, for the temperate forest, for the tundra, for the taiga, for the rainforest. There's one for every one. And this food web is essentially tracks who eats who. It connects plants with animals. So usually at the bottom of almost every food web, plants are usually at the bottom of the food web. They get eaten and then they get eaten and then it just goes up to the top predator, the apex predator. Another way to look at it is to see how energy moves throughout an environment. So essentially what that means is that the plants produce their own energy through photosynthesis and stuff like that. They get eaten, their energy moves to the next animal, and then that animal that eats the plants gets eaten by another animal. That animal transfers its energy from the plants through there, and then when you get to the top, the animal that eats that animal eats the animal that ate the energy of the other animal, which got the energy from the plant. Hard to visualize it like that. But yeah, it's essentially, it shows how energy moves through a system. And like I said, plants are the base of the food web for mostly all the food webs out there. Sometimes for the oceans, those are more of like the plankton things, the little micro plankton people. So yeah, that's usually the base of food webs. Fun fact, let's see if I can say these names. V. Summerhays and C. Elton published the first food web in 1923. And now thinking about it, it's been 100 years since the food web was created. So happy 100-year anniversary to the food web. Now it's 2023. Alright, next term. This is going to be the bulk of our episode. Biome. Biomes is kind of like an umbrella for ecosystems. So it's like the umbrella, the region, the characterization that certain ecosystems have. Well, let's differentiate first biome and ecosystem. Ecosystem are all the plants, animals, and terrain and landforms. All the terrains and landforms in an area. So that's different from biome. Biomes are essentially the characterization of the groups of those ecosystems. The plants and animals in these biomes survive by adapting to its conditions. So if you're in a colder biome like the tundra that we'll talk about in the next term, you're going to want more colder fur. You're probably going to be more adapted to a colder, more windier, not so much rain environment. And it's different than ecosystem in that it classifies certain similar ecosystems around the world. So places like the Americas, the Northeast Americas, and the Canada region, those are more of like a taiga, more like Arctic-y region. So those are kind of more of like a tundra taiga biome. And the thing with biomes, it depends mostly on climate and latitude. We talked about both of those in previous episodes, so go check it out. Here's the playlist up here. So yeah, it depends on climate, which is, like we said, like the average weather in an area, like we said last episode. So it's kind of like what is expected of the weather. And the latitude is essentially how far it is, so whether it's near the poles or the tropics or the equator. Fun fact, biomes in the Cape Floral region, which is in South Africa, have about 9,000 different plant species in the Cape Floral region. And that's in South Africa. 9,000 different plant species. Wow. Alright. Third term. Alright, turn number 3. This is where we start getting into our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're talking about the 7 biggest biomes in the world. Here's our first one. The tundra. It is the world's coldest. It is absolutely freezing there. It's mostly found in high mountains, so the very high mountainy regions of the world, and ice caps, which we talked about in episode 4, which we talked about the waterworks and all the water formations that we have in our world. It's characterized by very short plants, so like not many plants around, and very short ones, so like little bits of grass, little scattered everywhere. That's what it is, and very short summers. Usually the summers there are pretty short. They only last like a couple months, and then after that it's back to cold sweeping winds. High winds, cold temperatures characterize this world's coldest biome. Yeah, not the easiest place to live in, considering if you live in the tundra. These can usually be found in the extremes of our latitude that we talked about, the poles and the higher tropics. So Antarctica, the Arctic, Russia, Siberia, that's also probably some, Canada, Greenland. Those can get very, very, very cold and are probably characterized in the tundra biome. Fun fact, the average annual temperature for the tundra biome is negative 14.8 degrees Fahrenheit. Annual average temperature. That is freezing, absolutely freezing cold. And this is places like Greenland and Siberia and Canada, places where if you go north enough you can experience the tundra biome. Alright, this is essentially a lot of people join this and tundra together. Well, they're pretty similar, but let's talk about some of the differences. And this next term, our fourth term, taiga. It's probably a word you haven't heard that much. In the northern hemisphere, usually found south of the Arctic. So like in that Siberia, Canada region, that is where you could usually find Tonga. I mean, not Tonga. That's an island. Taiga. There you go. Also known as the boreal forest. If you've seen also that called, that is also the taiga biome. It's usually snowy. It's very snowy, very cold, and it's usually covered in something called fir conifer trees. Those are like your traditional pine cone trees that you see. Those are usually found in the taiga region. So places like Canada, Siberia, those are usually very foresty and very cold. Those are the taiga region. It's different than tundra because tundra doesn't have a lot of plants. It's the world's coldest. This is not the world's closest. It's pretty close. But taiga has more plants and more conifer trees, and tundra doesn't have that many plants, and it doesn't have fir conifer. It contains 1/3 of the Earth's trees. That is how many trees are in the taiga biome. It is full of trees, but at the same time, it has the fewest animal and plant species of any biome. Not many plants, not many animals, because it's pretty cold, pretty harsh weather, also pretty high winds. Fun fact about the taiga, it covers 17% of the Earth's land. More than 1/10 of the world is taiga, and that's considering the massiveness, of Russia. It's huge. Siberia, it's a combination of tundra and taiga. Canada, northern Canada, has a lot of taiga and tundra. Greenland as well. Places like Norway and Sweden, yeah, a lot of the north, and usually found between South and the Arctic in the northern hemisphere. Alright, we are at our halfway point. Alright, this one is probably more closer to home than probably a lot of people. Temperate forest. If you live in places like New York, you've seen these temperate forests all the time. It's also known as the deciduous forest, or deciduous biome. The trees in the temperate forest change colors in the fall and lose their leaves in the autumn. So all those deciduous trees, the ones that change into pretty colors of red, orange, and yellow, those are deciduous trees. Usually found south of the taiga. So you could think of like, you could think of the biomes as kind of like layers. The higher up you go, the more extreme. So it's like we have your tundra at the top, really at the really top of the earth near the poles. Then you have your taiga in between, and then you got your temperate forest, which is usually south of the taiga, and kind of has similar weather to this. 4 seasons, you got your 4 seasons. You got moderate summer, moderate spring, a bit of a harsher winter because you're near the taiga, and a moderate fall. Moderate climate is usually found in the temperate forest. That's why it's called temperate, like mild, like cool, like usually normal temperatures. It's not really that extreme. It's usually found, like I said, south in the taiga in places like North America, Europe as well. Northeast Asia is usually found in places like that, the taiga. And yeah, and it's usually found like places like that where temperate forest and the climate is usually good for the temperate forest to exist. Fun fact, the temperate forest is home to the giant redwood tree, which is the tallest tree in the world. It's usually found in like the California redwoods, Oregon, Northern California, Washington, that area, that is also a lot of temperate forest as well, which have a moderate climate. So these giant redwoods are able to grow pretty tall. Alright, this is also can be found in North America. We're essentially going down from the poles. So we touched the tundra, the taiga, the temperate forest. We're going to go down a little bit more. The grasslands. The grasslands, wide open spaces across the world. They have been found everywhere across the world. We know here in the U.S. as the Great Plains, but they have multiple names. They can be either known as pampas, like in South America, prairies, like here in the U.S. Veld. I've never heard it called veld before. I don't know where that is. The savanna, the Great Serengeti in Africa, and the steppes in eastern Russia and places like that. Multiple names. Medium climate, so kind of like back to our temperate forest. Dry, really kind of like medium dry. You get some rain and medium rain, like I said. So kind of like medium dry, medium rain, but there's still large grasses, large open areas. It's usually, like I said, between the desert and the forest, and that gives us a hint to our next term. So, like I said, you got your tundra, then your taiga, then your temperate forest, and now you got your grasslands. So that's usually between the grasslands and the desert. A temperate grassland, it's a combination, you could say, of the temperate forest and the grasslands, has almost no trees. If you think of something like the Serengeti, the Great Savannas of Africa, you have large grasslands, but you do still have some trees. Temperate grasslands, almost no trees at all. Fun fact, the height of the tallest grasses in some of the grasslands of the world can be up to 6.5 feet. That is massive. That is, how much is 6.5 feet? I'm trying to look around my room. 6.5 feet is probably the height of the shelf that you see over here of my Lego architectures. It's probably the height of the shelf, so imagine that. That's a very, very, very tall grass. You could also think of the biomes that we've talked about as like a spectrum. So we have our next term here, desert, which is a very, 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 very dry climate. Almost gets no rain at all, and when it rains hard. Like here in Phoenix, I'm in the middle of a desert. When it rains here, usually in the summer, it rains hard. It all comes down at once in a giant monsoon with wind, thunder, lightning, sometimes hail if it's an extreme case. And it's usually very dry, these deserts, and they're made of sand, rock, and gravel. Very, very dusted and arid. That is a key term we want to know. Arid, which means not many rainfall, and very dry as well. It can either be extreme cold or extreme heat, or extreme cold, however you want it. Same thing. Hotter deserts like the Sahara, what's the one in the U.S., Mexico, the Sedona? Yeah, like places like that, like the Sahara. Well, the Sahara really is the big one. Those are really usually hotter deserts and are closer to the equator. Our colder deserts like the Gobi, Antarctica is a desert. It's a cold desert, very, very, very cold, are going to be closer to the poles. So if you think about, like I said at the beginning of this term, think of the biomes as a spectrum. You got your tundra, incredibly, incredibly cold. Your desert, usually very incredibly, incredibly hot. And then you got your temperate grasslands. And in the middle, you have your temperate forest. Essentially, the basics of it all. The Goldilocks zone of the temperate, of the biomes. Very in the middle and very temperate everything. So you can think of tundra and the desert as the extremes. And then taiga and grassland kind of like in the middle. So not as hot, not as cold, but temperate forest is just right. Fun fact, the biggest desert in the world, the Sahara in North Africa, 3.5 million square miles of land it takes up in North Africa. That is a huge amount. And the Sahel, where is the border between North Africa, the Sahara, and down below near South Africa, everywhere below the desert, that is also included. That area is called the Sahel, I think, if it's called. Yeah, 3.5 million square miles of land. That is a massive amount. Alright, we are on term number 8. We are almost done with season 4 of Prietology. Wow, we are already 4 seasons done. This is an interesting term. It doesn't really fall into our spectrum. This is kind of like an outlier. Tropical rainforest. There you go, I said it right. Tropical rainforest, very wet and very humid and very warm. Not as hot as the desert, but a warm, humid, and wet climate. You know them everywhere in the world. Mostly you can find them in South America, like the Amazon. Lots of colors. It's very, very, very colorful. Very colorful environment with lots of plants and animals. The most in any other biome. It has more plants and animals than any other biome. does not have regular seasons, so you don't have your summer, fall, winter, and spring there. It usually has wet and dry seasons. The wet seasons you could obviously think are in the summer, more summery things. So those are more like rain, more humid, more wet. And the dry seasons, not that dry. It's not like dry like here in the desert dry. It usually dries and like doesn't fall that much rain, but it's very, very, very short. And after that, it comes back with the water and wet rain, and wet season is back again. Fun fact, the rainforest land in the world, global rainforest land, has dropped from 14% of the world used to be rainforest now, to 6%. That is massive. That is an 8% difference of the amount of rainforest land that we have in the world. That is a bad thing. We need to stop like cutting down the rainforest and using them as things in deforestation. That is the main cause of rainforests being destroyed today. We're going to lose all the diverse creatures and diverse plants that we have in the rainforest. But yeah, wet and humid climate. Let's go to something that probably even is more wet in the next term, our penultimate term. Alright, our penultimate term of season 4. Wow. Let's get on to it. This is an interesting one. This also doesn't fall into our spectrum because it's essentially around the spectrum. It surrounds the spectrum. The ocean biomes. There's 3 of them. I should make that plural. Ocean biomes. There are 3 types that we'll be talking about. The 3 big types. The 3 only types in the world. The open ocean, the deep sea, and the coral reef. Yes, the coral reef has its own biome. I'll explain why. First, we'll talk about the open ocean. Vast water. The biggest biome in the world and covers most of the earth. Vast waters everywhere. And most of the plants and creatures that live in there live in the sunlit area, the places where light is still visible. And this includes most phytoplankton, which is a lot of the diet that most of these plants based on. And like I said at the beginning of the episode, when I was talking about the food web, phytoplankton in the oceans is the base of the food web, and all the plants and animals, eat it, and then it goes up and transfers its energy up the food chain. The deep sea, which we will now talk about, the strangest ecosystem, the strangest of the biomes, no sunlight, freezing temperatures of water, immense pressure, the same pressure of going 2 kilometers underneath the ocean. It is crushing temperature. So yeah, those are really a lot of strange creatures. Bioluminescence, the phenomenon that is very well known in the deep sea. Bacteria in certain fish, glowing to make them glow in spooky and colorful colors in the ocean to help them hunt prey and like lure the prey, and then they just hunt them and then they get eaten. Yeah. And then our final one, the coral reef, made of coral, which you didn't know, is made of the exoskeletons of living creatures. So essentially calcium. Calcium is a big thing that's made of coral. Very colorful. Lots of like smaller creatures, lots of like things like eels and small fish. Sometimes sharks go there and prey for them and hunt for food there. And usually found the coral reef in the sunlit zone. Fun fact about the ocean biomes. Point Nemo, which is in the Pacific Ocean, it's a point on the Pacific Ocean called Point Nemo, is the farthest point from land in the world. So everywhere in the world, Point Nemo is incredibly far from land. 1,670 miles from land. That land is essentially like 16700. That is the farthest you can go from land in the world. It is very, very far. Alright, one more term, everyone. One more term to end Prietology Season 4. It all comes down to this. The final term of Prietology Season 4. Conservation. I know, that's a weird one to end it, but conservation, a movement to protect ecosystems and biomes. And not just that, other landforms as well. Plants, animals, to preserve them in every single biome in the world. Also to protect waterways and waterworks, the waterworks like we talked about. Landforms as well, to keep the knowledge of biomes still alive. Essentially, this is the people who protect the ecosystems and organizations that protect the ecosystems. Tries to fight things like deforestation. The deforestation like I talked about with the tropical rainforest, that they're being diminished in size by 8%. Climate change as well. Pollution of our ecosystems and our enchanting ecosystems like our episode is called in our biomes. Pollution is getting into our precious biomes, people. We need to find them. And climate change as well, affecting the biomes and the plants and animals that live in them. Conservation is a hugely debated topic nowadays with all the politics stuff happening in the world. So yeah, protect conservation. Let's keep conserving our planet, and let's conserve our waterworks, our landforms, our plants and animals, our tundras and taigas and temperate forests and grasslands and deserts and ocean biomes and tropical rainforests. Let's conserve all this so we can enjoy it in the future. Alright, the final fun fact of Season 4. The WWF, not the World Wrestling Federation, and there's a lawsuit about that later. The World Wildlife Fund, I'll put a picture of it up here. The World Wildlife Fund, the largest conservation organization in the world, is fighting all this to continue all this. Over 5 million members are part of the World Wildlife Fund. I don't know how to be part of it, but yeah. That'd be a cool thing to part of. So if you guys know how to be a part of the World Wildlife Fund, do it. It's a great organization with a great cause. That's it. That's all the terms in Season 4. Well, that's it, everyone. Thanks, guys, for enjoying Season 4 of Prietology. Let's get on to the outro to say our final goodbyes to Season 4 of Prietology. That's it, everyone. Prietology Season 4 is a wrap. We're done talking about geology and earth science. Thank you guys so much for being with us this entire season. 6 amazing episodes. We talked about the formation of the earth, the core, the rocks, minerals, latitude and longitude, and how they actually work. Landforms like mountains, canyons, lakes, and like we talked about in the waterworks, lakes, rivers, deltas. We talked about weather. What is climate? Weather, precipitation. And then today we talked about biomes, the food web, the tundra, grasslands, and conservation. How we can protect everything that we've talked about in this season and hope to better it for the future. Oh, okay, my light turned on. Alright. So yeah, this is the last episode of Season 4. Some more announcements. Formula 1 2021, we're back to playing it again. That's the next video coming on January 29th. It's a bit outdated, of course. 2021 was 2 years ago, but still, it's a great game to play. We'll be back to playing it on January 29th. Now this is where it gets a bit heavy. Next season, Season 5 of Prietology, will be the last ever season. That's it. Next season will be the last season of Prietology I will be making on Dprieto TV. Be with us for the entire thing. We got, I think, a lot of episodes. We got about 7 episodes. It's going to be the grand finale of Prietology. Everything, this all started 3 years ago in 2020 because of the pandemic. We've talked about chemistry. We've talked about physics, biology, earth science, and geology. And now, to round out the series of Prietology, Season 5 will be about... I'm going to do an extended drum roll. We're heading and we're reaching for the stars. We're going to talk about astronomy. Astronomy, the solar system, constellations, supernovas, the space-time, dark matter, the theory of relativity, stuff like that. Stars, what is a star? The asteroid belt. We got a lot of interesting things to talk about in Season 5 of Prietology. We're reaching for the stars. Astronomy is our topic, something I'm very passionate about. This Season 5 will probably be coming, not for a while, it'll probably be coming at the end of the summer maybe, and we'll do it entirety. We'll probably focus of it on the entirety of the rest of 2023. So get excited for that. Prietology Season 5. Well, everyone, thank you for watching. Thank you for being with us for another season of Prietology. It's been great having the time here. It's been great having the little Statue of Liberty, the little minor statue, my plasma globe here. So yeah, thanks to this season of Prietology, and hope to see you for the next one, Season 5, coming in the late summer. And see you next week for F1 2021. See ya.